We're going to cover how to run ductwork in your attic successfully. I know there's a lot of information out there that says you should never ever do it, and although if you have the right setup, it's better to avoid it, but if you do, there is a way you can do it and do it successfully with really good results. In my case, I have a 2-story pole barn home on a slab, and I did not have enough room in my ceiling joist between the first and second floor to run all the ductwork necessary to feed both the downstairs and upstairs. And what I wanted to avoid in this house for aesthetics is soffits, drop downs. And I didn't want to have any boxes with ductwork running in them, so to avoid that, I'm running 2 systems, and my HVAC units are primarily going to be for cooling in the summer and just a backup to my radiant heat in the winter. For those of you who are considering a build like this or are trying to figure out how you're going to run your ductwork, let's check out how you can run your ductwork in an attic successfully. The way I like to do this is I like to build basically a box to contain all the ductwork. That way I can seal it off and then blow insulation over it. So we got 3 2x4s, determined width that I wanted to run my trunks down along. Those are all fastened in. Now what I'm going to do is take polystyrene and lay it across the top of those, and then I got to run town to get a couple more starters for my ductwork, and then I can get this up. I think I can get all the main trunks in today. I don't know if I'll be able to get all the runs done, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, so the base is all done, all the way down. Now I can start measuring so I can cut out all my holes for my takeoff. So I'm going to do that all downstairs. So here I'm laying out my main supply trunk, marking out my holes for my takeoffs, and these will all serve as supplies to individual rooms. Once that main trunk is done, you want to make sure that you tape off all of the joints. Around the takeoffs and around where the main trunks connect together all need to be taped and sealed up. Alright guys, I worked until about midnight last night. I got this whole main trunk done and set in place. I got all of the vents and return boots cut in. I only have 4 left to secure, and then we can hook all the flexible duct up. But all of this can be done prior to drywall. However, when I'm doing it in a ceiling, I like to do it after the fact because I like to make sure those supply boots and return boots are really tight in that drywall opening. And sometimes drywallers can cut the holes a little bigger than what I like. Alright, so I have to cut a little off of this one, but how I do this is I'll put the boot in, and then I'll make a T, screw it in through the ceiling joist, and then I'll go down here, get this where I want it, put screws through into here to hold this in place, and then when I put my register on, the screw on each side of the register will go into a 2x4 versus just having to put like something in for like a drywall anchor or something like that. So I'm guaranteed I can get into something solid doing it this way. So got to go cut a little off this one and then put it in right here. I'm just a little touch too big. Another thing you want to do in your attic is you can see the orange reddish colored spray foam. I went around and sealed off all my top plates. Any penetration in the ceiling gets spray foamed. You can see the electrical box openings get covered with spray foam. That way you get a good seal. I'm using 2 different kinds of boots. One is this boot With hangers, obviously this is a lot nicer. You cut it out, it sits down, it's got a seal in here. I'm using this kind of boot, and the reason I'm using these is because the store that I get all my stuff from didn't have the other quick boots with the hangers, so just got to fabricate some stuff. We'll get this all sealed up with spray foam around the edge once we're done, but we got to go downstairs and secure these from the bottom. We'll get these flush with the drywall, and then we'll screw them into here. That way they're good and solid, and then I can add spray foam to seal that joint, as well as, you know, right along here where these seams are. So I level the bottom of that boot with the drywall, and then I run 2 screws on each side into that 2x4 T that I just placed upstairs. By doing this, you get a really secure, stable vent boot. So now it's time to run all of the flexible duct work for the supply and the return, and I use a insulated duct that's R8. So one thing to note is I am located in the Midwest, south central Iowa, and you want to make sure that you check with your local code and local requirements for what you need for ductwork in an attic. If you're located in Florida or the far south, it's going to be different than if you're located in the far north. So just be aware of that and make sure you check what your local practices are. So when you connect your flexible duct to your boot or to your takeoff, you want to pull the flexible part of the duct over your takeoff or your boot. I always tape it and then zip tie it, and then I will pull the insulation and the foil cover over as far as I can and then zip tie that tight, and then that gets you a good air seal so air can't get in under that insulation and contact that flexible duct. So typically what I do is I'll run all of my supply duct first, and I try to keep that underneath, so if any return duct has to overlap a supply, it is on the top. By doing that, when I blow in all my fiberglass insulation, the supply that's going to be carrying the hot air and the cold air will be further down in the insulation, giving it more protection. Once you have all of your flexible duct runs for your supply and returns done, then it's time to cover that main trunk. And I do it in this specific order. That way when I put my polystyrene on, I can make sure that I get a good seal around those flexible ducts. I'm going to cover the main trunk with 2 layers, overlapping layers of polystyrene. And the seams will be glued, and then around where the duct is will be all filled with spray foam, so that'll be airtight. And it'll be R10 airtight, and then the blow-in will actually get blown in over the top of it. I got to start cutting pieces. It's going to be kind of time consuming, but it is what it is, and I got to get going. I got to get this done. It's like 7:30, and the insulators are going to be here at 7:30 in the morning, so I have 12 hours to finish this. So I'm sure it'll take me a good 5 or 6 to finish what I got to do. So here you can see I got the first layer of polystyrene applied to the main trunk. It's up tight against the ductwork, and all my joints are taped with foil tape. Once you get the first layer done, you're going to repeat the same process, and I make sure that I overlap my existing joints on the next layer just to be safe. I glue this layer, and then I fill all the joints with spray foam. You can certainly use thicker polystyrene insulation. I just had a bunch of the 1 inch, which is R5, and I like to do 2 layers just to overlap those seams like I was talking about. So this works perfect, and it gets me over the R8, and this is actually R10 once you have 2 layers on there. What I'm doing now is going around with spray foam and filling all the cracks, and around where that flexible duct hooks up, I fill that whole cavity around that with spray foam. Now that the main trunk is completely encapsulated and sealed up, I take what they call Reflectix, some people call it double bubble, and what it is it reflects heat. So when in the summertime, when your attic is getting super hot, that will reflect the heat and protect your duct. So I like to add this. It does, from my experience, work, and it's, in my opinion, worth adding. Get a roll wide enough that it can go down and attach to that bottom 2x4. I staple it in on one side, cutting around the flexible ducts,
And then when I get to the other side, I cut around the ducts again and staple that edge to the bottom 2x4. So you just want to make sure you have something wide enough to attach to both 2x4s that are at the bottom supporting the trunk.
All right, well, this duct work install is complete. Looks pretty good. This Reflectix over the top will reflect that heat. So between the 2 layers of polystyrene and this, I'm probably about around an R12, R13. So the insulation I'm doing tomorrow is an R60 fiberglass blow-in. It'll come up 22 inches, which will be about 2 inches above this. So all of this underneath, this will all be covered. So pretty much all of the ductwork will be under insulation. So pretty excited about that. I think this is a really good install. You know, a lot of people will tell you that you shouldn't put ductwork in the attic, and although it is risky, if you do it properly, you can have really good success with it. The key is keeping the air off your duct. And the way I wrap this with 2 different layers of polystyrene, taped the first layer, put the second layer on, spray foamed all the seams on the second layer, and then I covered it with this Reflectix. So we should have an airtight system here. So,
All right, so now that I got all the ductwork completed in the attic, I can go ahead and blow in all of the fiberglass insulation. I'm blowing it into an R60, which is 22 inches. And that will protect all that ductwork from the heat and cold, and we should have a really good, efficient system.
guys, that's the machine. They basically open those bags, dump it into that machine, it kind of grinds it up, and then it blows it up that hose. And we're going through the window and then up in the attic. So I'll show you what it looks like up in the attic. Man, they are cranking this way fast. Look at that. The only thing that I wish I could have had done before this was my chimney. However, I put these boards up that I can walk along the top of these over there. I will have to scrape a little bit of that away around that, but shouldn't be too bad. But it's one of those things where in order to get the drywall done, I have to get this insulation in here. So, alright, so I want to show you just exactly why I laid this out the way I did. So I'm standing above the utility room right now, and the furnace AC unit will sit right there. and the main duct, supply duct, will come up through this area right here. So I'll easily be able to tie it into this main trunk. This is the main supply trunk that runs all the way down, and then all my supplies come off of this to each room and bathroom. And then my return trunk is right here, and the return duct main return will also come up through there, and I'll be able to hook it in to that main trunk right there. So the reason everything inside this little box, I didn't have them fill up, because I'm going to have to get in here to cut this out, which I already framed in the opening, so it'll be really easy to do. By not filling this space right here, I'll have plenty of room to get my duct up off of my furnace into here, hooked up to the supply and return trunk. So I'm pretty excited about this. As you can see behind me, everything is covered in 24 inches of insulation. I marked all the trusses at 22, but they actually filled it up to about 24 inches. I know this wasn't the most exciting video. You can run ductwork successfully in an attic. You just have to make sure that it's done properly. Take your time. It's not something you want to get sloppy with. You want to make sure every inch of that duct is covered with insulation and sealed off from any of the air. And I've done this in one of my previous houses, and I had really good success with it, and the house was pretty efficient. So with that being said, we appreciate you watching, and we will catch you on the next video.